The views and opinions of this program presented by the host and guests do not reflect those of Bronc Radio TV nor the university. You're listening to the Political Hour here on Bronc Radio.
Welcome to another edition of the Political Hour. I'm your host, Omar Jimenez. Today is Wednesday, March the 4th, 2015. But first, joining me live in the studio are candidates running for McAllen City Commissioner for District 1 and the northeast side of the city. In this special election, 4 candidates are running for this open seat that is vacated by Scott Crane, who died in office this past December after running in the McAllen Marathon, which will be named after him. Here with us is his sister, Debbie Crane Aliceda, a McAllen ISD school board trustee, Richard Cortez, former mayor of the city, Javier Villalobos, attorney and former chairman of the Hidalgo County GOP, and Eduardo Hinojosa, a general manager of a broadband internet company. Candidates, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will begin with opening introductions from all of the candidates. Before the show, we drew the order of that the candidates will go by, and then work our way clockwise for the rest of the questions. Candidates will have 3 minutes for the first question. So we will begin with Mr. Cortez.
I'm Richard Cortez, and being a commissioner for the city of McAllen means that you're one of 7 elected officials that are the governing board for the city of McAllen. Managing the city of McAllen is a very complex situation. The city of McAllen alone on the general fund receives a little less than $110 million, and it spends $110 million. It also has a business called a golf course. It has a utility company. It has a bus transit company. It owns 2 international bridges. So a lot of the things that we do in the city, we also have 1,800 employees on which the police department and the fire department are also part of a union organizations. So it's obvious that the managing of this humongous institution requires a lot of skill. I happen to hold 2 professional designations. One is certified public accountant, and the other one is a certified valuation analyst. I've been practicing my profession for 45 years. Part of what I do is I assist businesses, small, medium-sized, and large businesses in many aspects of their business. I also sit as the director of an international bank. Being a director of an international bank exposes me to what people are doing here in the Valley, what type of businesses they want to start, and I really have a sense of the pulse of the community, because as I see financial statements for clients that I work with, and I see financial statements of people that bank with us, it gives me a pretty good idea of where the economy is. Also, because I have bought and sold radio stations, TV stations, shopping centers, hotels, as part of the practice that I have, it uniquely qualifies me to assess anybody coming into the city that wants to construct things or do some things, because I'm very familiar with all of that information. So to me, I'm running because I believe that the city of McAllen can benefit from the many years of experience that I have. Also, the city of McAllen funds the Boys and Girls Club, funds the McAllen Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, the museum, Quinta Mazatlan. Well, I've been president of the Boys and Girls Club. I've been a member of the Economic Development Corporation. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member of Quinta Mazatlan, and I've been a member of the museum board. All that experience that I have being inside those organizations is going to help me as those organizations come to us to ask us for money and continue support. So I believe that that vast amount of experience that I have uniquely qualifies me to be one of the 6 commissioners in Mayor Darland's team.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Mr. Villalobos.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invite. Okay, and you all have a beautiful campus. So District 1 is one of the most important districts in the Valley, and I'm talking the Valley, not just McAllen. It has the highest residential tax base probably in the whole Rio Grande Valley. So we definitely need somebody that has experience running a municipality. For the past 17 years, I've been representing municipalities, school boards, housing authorities, economic development corporations, and different type of nonprofits and governmental entities. In essence, I've been informing mayors, commissioners, school board trustees, superintendents, city managers, on what they have to do and how they have to do it. So nobody has the extensive experience I've had. I really want to sit down and help out the city, especially District 1. One of the main issues we've been facing right now, because we've been out talking to the people, is not necessarily a city issue. It's a school bond. So even though it's a school bond, it really is a city issue because it affects the whole city. And we've been discussing with the people, and they have been informing us as what they're looking for. And what they're looking for is somebody that will stand hard and fast against excess taxes. I think, based on what I've done before, there's ways of cutting down budgets, trying to trim things, and trying to be a little bit more efficient and kind of give people a tax break in a sense. So, of all the candidates, I think I'm going to be, and I'm announcing it, and I've announced it before, I'm going to be against that school bond. Whether I know I'm going to make some enemies, but I think I'm going to make more friends. Nobody has the extensive experience I have, so I think I can hit the ground running and really assist the city of McAllen.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you. It's always great visiting my old stomping grounds. I'm an alumni here, so it's always great. I was part of one of the organizations here known as CEO. That was an entrepreneur organization. It's really, it was great to get that experience to be involved in that type of organization. One of the recent groups that came out of CEO, excuse me, was Create the Bridge. Very young group of entrepreneurs, very bright individuals. I believe they recently landed a deal with the city of FAR. And those are the kind of things that I look at coming out of the university and seeing some of the potential of bright young individuals that can come out of our educational system that we might be losing to surrounding cities. I think it'd be great to maybe get them more involved with the city of McAllen, maybe create a type of committee that can work hand in hand with the university and figure out ways to implement the type of potential that can come out of this university as far as individuals that can do great service to our city. The other thing also a lot will ask is why I'm running. I think a lot of my life experiences have shaped me into the person that I am today. A lot of things have happened to different people. They affect them a certain way, or they challenge them a certain way, and it teaches them to be a little bit more on the brighter side of things. I think when you experience certain things in life, they help mold you and create you into the person that you are today. And I think that I hold that dear to my heart, and a lot of the decision making that I will do once elected commissioner is what's in the best city's interest for the future, not just for the next 2 years to finish pending projects, but what is some of the things that we can do that will last a lifetime for the city of McAllen. That's the type of thought process that I have going into the city. I think that it's a tough race. A lot of the, actually all three of the other candidates, my opponents, are very experienced. And I think that it's a challenge overall, but it gives me a lot of motivation. A lot of people who have from the very beginning said, don't even enter the race. You're going to lose. That alone motivates me to, not to prove them wrong, but to stick with what I believe in. I believe that my purpose in life is to do great things for others, great things for the community, great things for the city. And having that type of mentality, I think, will carry on for a very, very long time during the race and maybe even after the race. Those of you that didn't even know I was running, whether you're a student or a registered voter in McAllen, you can stay informed at McAllenCommissioner.com. That's my campaign website, or my Facebook page, Elect Eduardo Hinojosa. I've got a Twitter account also. It's called McAllen Commish. So I'm trying to do the best I can to get the word out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Mrs. Alisenda.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, so my name is Debbie Crane Aliseda. I'm currently a school board for the McAllen School Board, a trustee right now. I live in McAllen. I've lived in District 1 basically my whole life. My family lives there, grown up there. All of our businesses are in District 1. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. We've owned businesses. I personally own Harrison's Factory Outlet and Gable Prince Gallery, with a location in Brownsville, Westco, and McAllen. And Gable Prince Gallery was in McAllen. And my family has all sorts of other businesses. some of them in District 1, Car Wash, Party Universe, Curves for Women, The Grease Monkey, DeSoto Metal, Jones & Crane Law Firm. We're from here, we're raising our children here, we live next door to each other. What I do on the school board right now is very important for people to understand. It's twice the size of the city of McAllen. We have over a $220 million general fund that we work with. We have over 3,300 employees, which is twice the size of the city. We manage 33 buildings. We have unions, we have a police department. We deal with insurance and benefits and all those types of things for our employees. It's a lot of work that what we do. We won all sorts of awards, though, for being so physically conservative. And we are rated so high with all sorts of financial institutions because of the way that we are so conservative. What else can I tell you about myself? I'm a mother of 5. I know I don't look that old, but I am. I have ages 7 through 22. I have one who's a student here at UTPA, another one at UTSA, another one at the University of Houston, and a daughter at McAllen and a daughter at Pettis Elementary. I'm an alum here also. I just got to participate in the UTPA Alumni Ball for all the distinguished alumni this past Friday night, which was a total blast. And it's wonderful to walk on this campus and see all the freshmen right now. They're recruiting a bunch of freshmen doing the orientation outside. It's wonderful to feel all that excitement in the air. Trying to think of what else I'm missing. I should tell you to vote for me. Election early voting is March 18th through the 31st, and that's so important. Our biggest problem for the 4 of us is our election day is Easter weekend. It's a Saturday. No one's going to show up. Everyone's going to be out of town Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then early voting is during UTPA spring break, and it's during school district's livestock show. So the voter turnout's going to be really, really low. So it's really important that people remember to go vote March 18th at Lark Community Center. And look at all of our Facebooks and ask us questions and look at all 4 of us candidates and make a right, educated decision. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you, Mrs. Alisenda. And we're going to start our questions with you and work our way clockwise. And our first question is, what do you think are the issues in District 1 that need attention?
Oh, good. I thought you were going to ask me about the bond.
It's actually coming up later.
Well, good. So there are issues in District 1. Traffic congestion. That's a major. On Dove and on Trenton, it gets backed up. I live right there. We get backed up, especially during the school hours in the morning and the afternoon. We need to get some turn lanes in. Obviously, drainage. Everybody knows that when it rains and you're on Second Street, you need your kayak sometimes to get through there. And that's a problem that's an ongoing problem. But there is conversations with the drainage district, and they went out for a bond, and they're working on their things, and we need to finish that problem. What else is there? There's little problems in neighborhoods too. Simple things like speed bumps. You don't want your dog getting hit by a car because everybody is using your neighborhood as a cut through to go through, to get out of the congested streets, and that's what's happening in a lot of neighborhoods is people are going at high speeds through these neighborhoods to make cuts. So we need to address maybe changing the provisions for how you can get a speed bump. Instead of you need to have 300 cars per day. Or you need to have cars going slower than 35 miles an hour. Maybe we need to look at policies like that and change things like that. I'm trying to think of what else that's just in District 1 that would be something major. I mean, all over being a city commissioner, you don't just look though at just your district. It's an overall. You look at the city. You need to be the voice of your district, but also the voice of the city, the voice of the region. You need to do what's important for everybody. So there's a lot of negotiating and putting your projects on hold. Right now in District 1, we're working on Wisconsin Street. We're working on the cut-through of Auburn, the cut-through of Bicentennial. There's a lot of growth out in the TERS, out in Tres Lagos. We're working on a lot of things right now in District 1, but it impacts the whole city. All that is revenue that can be collected by the city, and all that is money that's going to be spent by the city. So it's really not just District 1 issue. It's a City of McAllen issue. It's a taxpayer issue.
Thank you, Mrs. Alisenda. Mr. Cortez, same question.
Well, I hate to be redundant, but I agree with a lot of what Mrs. Aliseda said. In addition to that, citizens are concerned with illumination on 2nd Street and all of our running parks, the lateral parks that we have there. Also learned that there's a rodent problem in some of the areas with possums and rats and things of this nature. I think a big challenge is going to be, managing the new growth of the growth of UTPA and possibly the the medical school that's going on. The city of McAllen has allocated 5 acres for UTRGV. I don't know if they have accepted that or not to put their administrative office there. But all of that is going to bring in some additional, management of the traffic and things of this nature. District number 1 also is next to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh is really growing really fast. I think with Edinburgh having all of that expressway property, you're going to see a lot of growth in this area. Also, we're going to have to manage that master plan development out there in North McAllen. They're thinking of developing 2,500, well, actually about 2,600 acres. So how that's going to impact the rest of the inventory that we have in other parts of McAllen that's yet to be known. We have to be very careful how we manage supply and demand in the whole city.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Mr. Villalobos.
Well, that question, I guess, pretty much we all have some similar concerns. Of course we do. But there's a couple of other issues when talking with the people. A lot of it has to do with quality of life. North McAllen is probably, it really is one of the nicest places to live in McAllen. But we're still lacking a little bit, and what I'm talking about is parks. Pettis Elementary, for example, we have, well, people don't know what we have. The sunken, we don't know whether they're parks or they're water retaining things. We don't know. But that's one of the issues that they've been talking about. But it's not just about District 1, it's about the city as a whole, like Ms. Aliceda said. What the people have been talking about is rejuvenating and renovating McAllen. And really the ones that need the most help is the south side. The north side pays the most taxes, but they don't complain. So what we need, what we're looking at is trying to figure out how we're going to be able to renovate the south side. We're kind of landlocked. The only growth is more to the northwest where the TERS is, or what they're trying to do. And now the TERS is a beautiful vehicle. But the problem is the infrastructure is not there at all. So hopefully it's gonna really help. Hopefully that TERS is gonna pick up the tax base and really help everybody throughout McAllen. But the most important thing in the north side right now, or one of the most important things, is quality of life.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mr. Hinojosa.
Yeah, one of the actual other organizations that I was a part of here at the university was the Sustainability Office, and I'd have to concur with Mr. Villalobos with the sustainability issue and the quality of life. One of the things you learn in that organization is how to do great things for the community as well, and the planet and the city, and I'd like to consider myself a bit of an environmentalist as well. And there's a section on my website at McAllenCommissioner.com that covers some of the ideas that I have that maybe we could implement for the city once elected commissioner, whether it's reducing emissions or maybe going the paper bag route versus the plastic bag route. I think one of the concerns that I see a lot too is those types of things that could help the environment and the city grow altogether. The other thing also is transparency. One of the first questions that I hear a lot from voters or unregistered voters or citizens in general is the transparency that the city needs to be more upfront about. And I think in general Texas is an open book government, so to speak, and where you want to consider it a free society, or it's one of the strongest open book governments, the state of Texas. And I think that should echo loudly in McAllen as well at City Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. The next question for all the candidates, and we'll begin with Mr. Cortez. What would be some of the things that you would do for the whole city, not just for District 1?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for the city going forward is how do we maintain our sources of revenues. As you know, 100% of the ad valorem taxes that come to the city of McAllen go to pay only one department, the police department, which means that we're going to have to finance every other department, every other aspect of the city through our sales tax revenues. As you know, retail is in trouble because of the internet. The millennials are buying in the internet. A lot of people are now shopping the internet simply because, take for instance Amazon. Amazon almost sells you things for cost. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on our downtown merchants and our merchants all over the community. So what happens if the growth that's predicted in retail, which is predicted to be 3%, and half of it is going to go to the internet, our expenses are going to continue to grow at 3%, but if our revenues don't grow at 3%, then we're in trouble. We're going to have to figure out how to do that. Well, that's what I've been doing for 45 years, and I think I can bring a lot of value to Mayor Darling and the City Commission in how we can take all of the business aspects that we have in McAllen to create a very healthy business environment so McAllen can continue to be the economic giant of the Rio Grande Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Mr. Villalobos.
McAllen as a whole does pretty good financially. It's probably the best municipality around. However, we are facing some issues. A lot of it has to do with the Mexican dollar. We used to have people from Monterrey, from south of the border, come spend a lot of money here in Mexico, and it's true. It's not happening as it used to be. A lot of people go straight to San Antonio and Houston. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are now buying homes in Houston and San Antonio. Now, the issue of the internet has crippled not only McAllen, but crippled a lot of municipalities throughout. And that's something that we need to address. And how do we address it? I guess we need to figure out how to help out our businesses, and that's what we've been talking about. When I said rejuvenate and rehabilitate, a lot of it has to do, for example, on 10th Street. If you go down south of Nolana, you will quickly notice that the businesses, the way they look, are aged. You can date them. You have an idea as to when they were built. As a matter of fact, even the streets, you know that they're not built at the level that they are built now. There's things we got to do. We got to make McAllen a destination city, and the attempt has been there. We just got to do it a little harder. Right now, we're subsidizing this past year about $900,000 the convention center. I think we need to figure out how to use a hotel motel tax a little bit more wisely and trying to attract more people.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd have to cover a couple of things that my opponents touched on. One of them is on what Mr. Cortez was talking about reducing a potential merchant prediction of 3%. I think with my background in IT as well for the last 13 years, one of the things that the FCC is talking about and has mentioned is reclassifying the internet as public service. And I think that would be huge for everyone, not just the city of McAllen. That's something really that no one can predict what the possibilities or the outcome could be if something like that were to take place. And also what Mr. Villalobos touched on with the Mexican peso, it has dropped significantly. There was an article in the Monitor not too long ago about that. And I think our gross retail sales tax was at $3.5 billion. $1.8 billion of that is due to the Mexican national that will come to our area and do shopping. So if the peso continues to plummet, that could be huge for our area. But again, I'll remind citizens that McAllen is probably one of the best as far as the region is concerned in the state for advancement, for potential. You hear all these hotels popping up near the new McAllen Convention Center. That's because they see the potential. And I think we're going to be okay going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Mrs. Alisenda.
Thank you. So I agree with what everybody said, and I just want to add to it so the question was how to rejuvenate, right, the city of McAllen?
What would be some of the things you do for the whole city? The whole city.
I think we all touched on, everybody touched on it too, is tourism, and tourism in a lot of ways. Tourism in the way that we're going to be doing now with the Mackay Stadium and with the girls softball complex and with the boys baseball complexes. Now we're going to have these high-end facilities where we can recruit all these recreational sporting tournaments where people will come on the weekends, they'll stay in our hotels, they eat at our restaurants, shop at our shops. All that generates revenue. I think with our new fine arts auditorium too, we're going to be able to bring all these, Team A type performances, all these incredible musicals, all these concerts, all these different comedians. All that will generate revenue. Tourism is a big thing, and like everybody did say, we have so many people coming over from Mexico. We also need to work with our bridges and our streets and make sure that we have the infrastructure to support all that. We really need to work on our fiber optics all over to make sure that we bring people and that when they come, they can connect and have these high-end, and you would probably, Mr. Hinojosa would probably know better about all the gigabytes and the gigabands and all that we need that's out there in Tres Lagos that we're doing too. But the city needs to have a better infrastructure for fiber optics to offer to people too, so that people will come down here for these high-end conventions, and people will come into our hotels because we have these hotels that have the capacity to feed everybody and house everybody. Everybody's competing for the same conventions, the same things, and it's nice that we're going to now be able to compete. We're going to now have those high-end hotels, and we already have the convention center. The Fine Arts Center will soon be around. But then, like Mr. Villalobos said, we do have old buildings, and like one of the problems is across from the original Civic Center, where Luby's is and all that building right there, there's 14 different owners. So how do you get 14 different owners to come and do a facelift on that massive building right there? There's things like that we need to come to a solution somehow. But it's all in cooperating with people and talking to the landowners and
Thank you,
sorry.
Mrs. Alisenda. Your time has expired. This is a good time to take a break here on the Political Hour, so we'll be back with more with candidates running for McAllen City Commissioner for District 1. Don't go away. Welcome to another edition of the Political Hour. I am Omar Jimenez, and today we have a very special edition as we have candidates live here at the studio running for McAllen City Commissioner for District 1. And we have a great dialogue going on, and I'm sure this will get even more great with this next question, which will begin with Mr. Villalobos. A major issue has been tax increases from many entities, such as STC, which is South Texas College, the local community college here for those listening in other parts, and with the city, with its last bond election in 2013, and the one coming up for McAllen ISD. How can all of y'all ensure that homeowners don't feel that they're paying higher taxes?
Well, the way you ensure is by, in a sense, not passing those elections. I think Hidalgo County spoke last year when they had the hospital district, and Hidalgo County voted against it. Unfortunately, Starr County, there was enough votes in Starr County where the measure passed. Now we have the issue right now with the bonds, and that's one of the main concerns that the community has and that we've been talking about. And really has to do with transparency. The question everybody raises is how do you go from 440 million to 297 million? There's some issues about tax swap, and I agree, a tax swap is a good idea, and it's something that the district should have done years ago. And I'm talking as soon as the legislature allowed those type of measures. Now, the other issue is about transparency. Nobody is informed. They talk about 297 million, when in reality, I also do bond council work. I've assisted school districts and cities. I know that if you amortize it over 40 years, that thing's going to be over 602 million. And people are not informed about that. If it's 30, of course it's going to be a little less, but the highest principle is, of course, in the beginning. It's going to be expensive. And then one of the things I dislike about the bond, or not the bond, but the way it's being pushed, is about if you're not for the bond, then you're against children. But then I think, what about the kids whose homes are lost because of tax foreclosures? Because let's say, for example, money is owed to the school district, to South Texas ISD, to the irrigation district. I also tell people, think about those little children looking into their faces.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Mr. Hinojosa.
On tax increases, that's a question that came up recently. Actually, the monitor contacted me. They're looking into doing some housing development in the District 1 area. And a lot of citizens are concerned that the housing development could decrease the property value in the District 1 area. And I think having taken advantage of some of those housing programs during my elementary years, it can change lives for some people. It really can. Those types of programs change lives for some people. So it's a good thing to have those types of programs, but I'm also a lifelong citizen of McAllen, so I understand that the growth for McAllen is really, really crucial and important. The market is competitive for residential development, but the hallmark of great leadership is understanding both sides of the situation. I think you take that to heart when you're going to make a decision for what's in the best interest of the city overall.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Mrs. Alisenda.
I've become an expert on taxes lately. So the problem is that the way that the schools are funded, the way the STC is funded, the way that the city's funded too, is you're ad valorem tax rate, property value. And you're constrained by that. And so the way that if you need more money to do things like with McAllen ISD to fix our dilapidated buildings, the way to do it is to raise taxes. And it's an unfortunate necessity. And McAllen is in a different situation. The way that we're funded, it's not an equal formula. So like an example, every dollar that is taken, the taxpayers pay, McAllen ISD gets about 25 cents, whereas Edinburgh School District gets about 75 cents, and so does FAR, San Juan, Alamo. And what you are allotted to use with those pennies, you are, there's rules, it's federal money, so there are rules. You can use so much on your M&O, which is your maintenance operations, which is what we're going out for the bond, and then there's the INS, interest in seeking. Interest in seeking is what will, after we raise the taxes, if the city voters vote yes on that, then that money pays off the INS side. What Mr. Villalobos was talking about, the TRE, the tax ratification election, that is something that's on the forefront. That is something that the school board has been thinking about. That is a great avenue to go, because with that you can also use it on your buildings, but you can also use it on your operation, maintenance for the buildings, but the operations. So your salaries, your benefits, your compensation, you can pay higher salaries. Right now we're really locked in. We're really, really tight. We have our payroll is 80% of our budget right now, and it's tight. We've gone through and we've really looked at everything. And there's other small things. You can go for grants and things like that, but there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to get fixed, and it's a big dollar amount, and the way to come up with that is to go out for a bond. Do I wish that the school district had rolled it out differently? Yes, I do. I tried really hard to get them to roll it out in separate propositions to give the voter a choice, so that we could do schools 50 years and older with the most need. That would be about $100 million, and then we could do another proposition of about 100. Whoop.
Thank you. Mrs. Alisenda, your time has expired. Mr. Cortez.
I think the question was, how do you ensure that taxpayers are not overtaxed? And I think that the city of McAllen cannot speak for other taxing authorities. We can only speak for ourselves. We can't get involved with the school. We can't get involved with the county. We can't get involved with the hospital district. We can only look at ourselves. So that is why it becomes extremely important for the city of McAllen to be as efficient as possible, creative as possible, and growing the revenue, so the need to tax our citizens more will be less and less and less. That's why I'll go back to my initial opening statement, that having 45 years of experience with dual professional designations, having helped businesses try to achieve high performance, is exactly the type of information and knowledge that the city commissioner has to help Mayor Darling and the other city commissioners to do that. We can all sit here and identify problems, and identifying problems is only step one of the solution. The solutions are the hard ones to do. And I think that's why certain skills in the financial world and the financial management are critically important to any candidate that's going to take over. The city of McAllen has always been very well represented by the business community, because the business community knew that it was necessary for the business community to invest in the city so that the city could continue to be managed very, very, very carefully and properly. I believe that I'm the candidate to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. The next question for all the candidates, and we'll begin with Mr. Hinojosa. How can the city of McAllen support UTPA and UTRGV when it opens in the fall?
Oh, that's a good question. Sorry. That's a good question. I think there's already been all types of balls rolling, and you know, the agenda is on there to get it going. I think I saw recently, I can't remember which legislator, but I don't know. I'm not too sure what the city can do. I know the state is involved. It's one of the bigger spotlights that's on the whole UT RGV merger and that type of thing. So I'm just looking forward to giving more students different opportunities to further their career. And when we talk about bright young students having opportunities to do something great for their career path, something like that is just absolutely amazing and a great option for students to have. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it once elected. If there's ways or committees that the city can create to work in conjunction with the university to make sure things go smoothly, help recruit students to get involved, I think all those things coming into play could be really, really beneficial for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Mrs. Alisenda.
I can answer it more from really, it's the city and the school district. What the city and the school district can do is provide education, the proper kind of education, so that when our students go in, they don't have the need to take remedial courses like in other areas they do. We can work collaboratively with STC and make sure that the city is funding the Chamber of Commerce, helping fund programs at STC that the maquiladoras need. An example of that I can give you is the maquiladoras have these manufacturing lines, and we can have students at MISD taking those courses, getting high school accredited hours for those courses. Then they can go to STC and they can get their certificates and come out job ready. Things like that. I'm sorry, I'm going off track with UTPA. My mind just started going. We can help out though with taxes and with the infrastructure, with going back to the fiber optics, to the roads, to buses, to making sure that we have, there's even been talk about having shuttles and trains and things like that going back and forth. We can certainly help out with the infrastructure of getting students to the campus, but then there's a lot of online courses and virtual courses, so the city can help out with that, with the internet and with the Wi-Fi. Those are big things to consider too. But there needs to be, a big part of it is the education, and it has to do with the school district. We have to make sure that the teachers that UTPA is equipping them with the things that we need to hire. So like an example is right now we have a huge IB program, but it's hard for us to hire teachers that are IB certified because they're not offered here at UTPA. We like to hire homegrown people. We don't have to go outside of the valley to hire people. And so it behooves UTPA or UTRGV to make sure that they offer the accredited courses so that the people that we're hiring have that certifications to be superintendents, to be principals, assistant principals, counselors. UTRGV needs to work with the local school districts to make sure that we're all talking the same thing, so that we're hiring people and sending our students up, and then we're sending their students down to us as employees. We're all working with the same mission in mind, the same strategy.
Thank you, Mrs. Alisenda. Mr. Cortez.
That question was asked of me by Gene Powell, then the chairman of the Board of Regents of UTPA at that particular time. He and I were debate partners in high school, so that's many, many, many years ago. What I told Chairman Powell was that I think that there's been a disconnect between the business community and UTPA because you are in Edinburgh. Obviously, the closest city to you is Edinburgh. But a lot of the commerce and a lot of the people are in McAllen, so there has to be a connection between the faculty and the city of McAllen and the commercial group in McAllen, because there's so many needs. Like when the tennis coach asked me that, or I saw the tennis facilities here, and they didn't have any wind screens. I got somebody to donate the wind screens for the tennis center, but. Our job at UTPA is to produce productive members of society. And in order for us to have productive members of society, when they leave here, they need to have a job. We also are trying to recruit industries down here. This is a very weak economy because we don't produce anything, and we need to have people that are good, a good workforce here. So if we don't collaborate, the city and the university, to really create the type of human capital that is needed out there by the commercial world, then we're losing opportunities. So I think a big thing that we can do is, first of all, let's get connected. Let's decide what the needs of both are, and then we'll solve the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Mr. Villalobos.
Thank you. Well, excuse me. Well, one of the reasons there's, in a sense, a disconnect between the university and McAllen is because it's a little difficult to do. Let me tell you why. Having represented municipalities for the past 17 and a half years, you're limited as to what you can do. The university is in Edinburgh, okay? So McAllen cannot come and spend money over here. However, this is what McAllen is doing right now, and I think it's a fantastic thing, and it's going to help the university tremendously. Not here in Edinburgh, but let's talk about what's happening in McAllen. The city of McAllen entered into an agreement, a 380 agreement with DHR Development, where the city is going to allow $5,400,000 for the development. Now, what is that going to do? That is going to assist the development company to do the infrastructure necessary for the purposes of the medical school. Now, when we talk about the medical school and when we talk about 5.4 million, I know some people have thought, why is it so much? Why 5.4 million? Well, think about the impact it's going to have. The city You cannot give away anything of value other than through a 380 agreement. I'm very anti-tax, very anti-giving, but 5.4 million for what we're gonna get back is tremendous. It was a fantastic deal that, I wasn't there, the prior commissioners did it. Something that was very necessary, and that is in McAllen. That is how we can help, and of course through some of the other measures through the internet that's necessary for students that are in McAllen that come to attend the university. But one of the most important things is, and continues to be and will be, the medical center, or the medical school.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Now is that time where candidates will be making their closing remarks and a chance to persuade our listeners to vote for them for this coming election. We did the drawing earlier in the show, and we will begin with the order that the candidates drew. So our first person to be closing will be Mrs. Alisenda.
Thank you so much, and I'm sitting here listening to their answers to that, and I feel bad. I paused on that because I'm married to somebody who's on the board for the UT system. My husband is regent for Arnie Aliseda, and so I paused because I always wonder, how much information is out there, and I don't want to get it incorrect. So, but I'm sorry, I'm diversity. Anyway, I just think it's really important that people get out and vote. Get out March 18th through the 31st and early vote. Don't wait until Easter. Like everyone's been saying, get on our Facebook sites, look at us. You can ask us questions. We have a really big forum tomorrow at Futuro McAllen at the public library. I think it starts at 6 p.m. All the commissioners from all over McAllen are going to be there, and that's going to be a really nice opportunity to get a really overview of the whole city of McAllen. You know me. I'm your trustee on the school board right now. I'm your next door neighbor. I've lived here. My kids go to school with your kids. I've gone to school with you. My parents went to school with your parents. I'm not going anywhere. I've been here for a long time. I know how things run. I know people. I'm related to people. I'm prima and primo, to everybody. I know how to get things done. I have a very agreeable personality, and I'm easy to work with, and I have the time to do things. And I like to. It's in my heart. I'm a public servant. I feel like it's something that I have to do, and I'm going to continue to do it. And it's something that I'm really good at, and I hope I inspire my children. I lead by example, and I hope I have inspired my children to become leaders too, as my parents inspired me to be a leader.
Thank you, Mrs. Alisenda. Mr. Cortez.
A lot of what we discuss here today is dealing with money and the need for government to always have more money, because you never have enough money to do all the things that you need to do. To me, you cannot solve your budgetary problems by simply cutting expenses. You have to solve your budgetary problems by creating more revenues. That's what I have 45 years of experience in doing. I have 2 professional designations that have uniquely trained me to do that. So if you want somebody to bring value to a government of 7 people, then choose somebody that has those skills to be able to help you increase your revenues, so that when we come asking you for more money, we don't have to do that, because we're already creating the revenues so that we can continue to do the operations without increasing your taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you. I'll remind citizens also that my passion has been working with youth for the last 7 years. Coaching baseball through the McAllen Boys and Girls Club is something that I hold dear to my heart. I've been doing that for the last 7 years with a lot of dedication and determination, spending my time with youth. Many will say that, or don't know this, but I lost my younger brother when he was 15 years old, and I think one of the things we really enjoyed doing and I had a passion for was baseball. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that I like to give back to the community in that way. Volunteer service. I wear a pin on my coat from the it's a Presidential Volunteer Service Award that I got for all the years that I've been doing this for. So I'm determined to do great things. I like to tell people that you come to a certain time when you make decisions for the city, when you look at a younger generation and say, maybe it's just their time to lead now. Mr. Cortez has over 45 years in experience, and that's great, and we all, really, really appreciate that. And that's one of the things that I like to tell people, and on my website, if you go on it, you can see all types of, messages that I'll send out as far as what my plans are for the future. And so, really, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Mr. Villalobos.
You know, Mr. Hinojosa is correct. We need new blood, and we're talking about new individuals, new elected officials, and also younger individuals to get involved in the process, in the political process, getting involved, running for office, and of course, making sure that they come out and vote. Because the voter apathy is just horrible here in Hidalgo County. As a matter of fact, even McAllen probably has a overall rate lower than the other surrounding areas, including La Joya, Dana, Alamo, and those areas, percentage-wise anyway. It's very important that the citizens, the younger generation, start getting active and involved. Well, I am asked often, well, why running? Well, and I tell them, for the past 17 years, I've been representing different municipalities, been involved in all aspects of city government, advising. Yet I live in McAllen, and I never really have gotten too involved here. So the issue arose, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring my expertise to the city of McAllen. I've dealt with the issues that McAllen is dealing with right now. I've dealt with countless times, from 380 agreements to TERS, to housing authority issues, to housing issues, to personnel issues. I've done it. There's no issue that can arise that I have not dealt with. We're talking about, and the other perspective I bring is my fiscal conservative perspective. You know, when we get into that budget, we're going to dissect. I kind of agree with Mr. Cortez. You can't just do one thing. You have to cut revenues, but also generate. That's something that I think I'm very capable of doing. Mr. Cortez has been an accountant for so many years. My degree was in accounting, business concentration in accounting. As far as business, I am very savvy. I know what I have to do. I know what I've done in my businesses. And so I'm asking all the citizens to go out during the early voting, March 18th through the 31st and April the 4th. And of course, pick a candidate of your choice.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. This completes this edition of the Political Hour. I want to thank each of the candidates for being on the show today. The special election for McAllen City Commissioner for District 1 will be held on April the 4th. Early voting begins March 18th and continues until the 31st. Bertudo McAllen will be hosting a forum with all city commissioners and public utility board candidates, including the ones here with us today and those running in the May general election. It will be tomorrow at the McAllen Public Library on Nolana and 23rd Street. The event will begin at 6 p.m. We'll be back with more on the Political Hour next week on Wednesdays from 12 to 1. This has been Omar Jimenez, and don't forget to like my Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Omar Jimenez BRTV and our station's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Bronc TV Radio. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition, and we'll be back with more on Bronc Radio.
The views and opinions of this program presented by the host and guests do not reflect those of Bronc Radio TV nor the university. You're listening to the Political Hour here on Bronc Radio.